Oh, can I curse on the podcast? That was a question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just talk like
Sweet.
yourself. Yeah.
I'll talk like this. This is my real self.
Welcome to the Honest Jams songwriting podcast, in which two friends become infinite on the space-time curve by writing a new song each week based on a prompt.
Whoa, that's a deep one.
I'm Neal,
Walker.
and with us today, over the magic of the internet, we have our friend, the wave collector himself, Neal Wright is here today.
Hello.
Hi, Neal.
Hey,
What's
thanks
happening?
for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Am I the first tele guest?
Yes. Usually we like to start by just talking about with our guests where songwriting came into their lives.
When I was younger, I had this idea that I just sort of got into songwriting randomly. But then I've recently realized that my whole family is actually pretty musical for the most part. My grandma played piano and was a piano teacher, and my dad would write little songs. He actually wrote me like a lullaby when I was a kid, and I later was like, oh yeah, I got exposed to some songwriting there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, basically it kind of all started, I had made, some electronic music just on, like Fruity Loops, and
What age?
even this, well, that was anywhere from like 12 up to like, now, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Did you have like a musical background, like as far as like, had you learned any instruments or anything like that?
I did take some drum lessons. I got a drum set when I was either middle school or high school. It was like around the end of middle school, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I remember taking these lessons with this teacher who would give you like a drill, and then he would like leave the room for like the entire lesson and then come back and be like, good job.
Oh, I thought you meant like the tool, the drill.
No, like he would be like, all right, do this.
Yeah.
Do this pattern.
Totally.
And then he would just like leave. And I think,
I
think that maybe if I had had a better drum teacher at that time, I would now be, superstar Neal Wright.
That's interesting though that you came into writing your own music, or even just like playing music really, through a software program. When
I first got into it, my brother was doing music with this program called Fast Tracker, which is like one of those really old, it was like DOS or like an old Windows program. And it kind of looks like a Excel spreadsheet, except that you're putting notes in there, and it's kind of like going down the rows as if, you're like writing notes on a timeline.
Right.
And
just like a sequencer kind of thing.
Yeah. And I guess there's like a specific type of program called a tracker. So I like messed with that a little bit, and then got into like Fruity Loops and Reason, but I never took it very seriously. I would just make little things here and there and be like, hey guys, hey brother and like friends in middle school, look at this. But I was never like, yeah, I'm going to be a musician,
I'm just fascinated. How did you like learn how to like structure a song, or like what notes you were playing, or like anything like that? To me, that all comes from kind of like figuring it out on an instrument.
Well, I think that actually like informs a lot of how I write songs now. I would be like, well, this is kind of what would sound good to me. And I when I first started doing it, and I didn't even really know how to use the programs, I would just go to the little piano roll and be like moving the notes around and be like, I like this note. And then, play it and then be like, oh, now I like this note here, and would just tweak stuff until it sounded the way I wanted. So it wasn't really from any kind of like music theory approach. Right. It was more like I listened to a lot of music when I was younger, and so I would be like, this is the kind of thing that like I like to hear.
Visualizing it as a piano is helpful though, because then you make the connection between the notes going up or down, and
and it's you're like true. using your ear in the same way as somebody who just learns from ear, like is learning the instrument. It's interesting that like that's basically your first instrument, that medium.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just kind of fucked around with that, and then how did that evolve?
There's like, I don't know, there's a lot of instruments along the way. At one point, I sold my drums and bought turntables and got into like turntablism and scratching and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the big turning point for me with songwriting was when I was about 19. I, had just gotten out of high school and I had gone to college and I had been in this relationship and we broke up, and I didn't feel prepared really for college. I kind of felt like I had been being prepared for college this whole time. And then I got there and I was like, wow, I have no friends. And, the whole world that I knew is gone. And so I was like kind of depressed and moved back home. And one of my ways of just coping with the depression of like heartbreak and just drastic life change was to just try to write songs. And, my sister had been into music around that time and had been like playing guitar and stuff. So I just like borrowed her guitar and, I had like GarageBand or something, and I would just write little songs, and the early ones are really bad, but I was just like, it was fun that I could actually like create a song. I was like amazed by that ability.
Did you learn chords, or was it like a similar thing that you did with the electronic music where you just kind of like playing the notes that you thought sounded good?
Yeah, it was exactly that. I did not know did not know how to play guitar at all. I was and that's why the first songs were so bad, because I couldn't actually play guitar. So I would just say like, I want it to sound like this, and I would just like literally try to play that, try to make that happen.
Have you always worked that way, where you hear what you want it to be like, and then you kind of seek out that sound?
Well, yeah, it's either that or it's just trying stuff, until I find something that sounds good. But I've noticed that, pretty much throughout my songwriting life, I've always found that if I have like a starting point, then my brain is kind of like filling in the blanks. It's like, okay, well, this is clearly what should come after this, or this is like the kind of thing that should come after this,
But you're like specifically hearing something, or is it kind of like you're chasing a feeling?
Sometimes I'm hearing a really specific thing, sometimes it's like, oh, I hear this melody and I actually like recreate what's in my head. But then other times it's more like a feeling. And it makes me think of, I've heard sort of writing, like writing, literary writing process described in a couple different ways. One of them is more like this very systematic approach where you're outlining everything and you're planning everything and then you're kind of executing your plan. And then another way that's more, I've heard it called like more exploratory. And I find mine to be more exploratory. And when I heard that like description, it made me think of like a cave, and you're like going into the cave with your flashlight, and you're like, okay, well, where does it go? It's like it's actually kind of leading you down some path, and you don't like really know what it is until you get there. That's what it often
a lot of
feels
trial
like
and error, kind of.
Yeah, a lot of trial and error, a lot of like, oh, that's a dead end, let's try this one. Oh, that was the right one, there's more cave systems over here.
Okay, so you started playing guitar, and you were also getting into recording at this time?
Well, the thing about recording is that because I was so bad at my instrument, it was basically like the only way that I could, if I can record it, then I can actually sit there and play it like 50 times, and then maybe that 50th one is like just barely good enough to,
right. Or you can play this one measure, and then you can play the next measure.
Right. And sometimes I would literally be like, okay, I'm playing like these 4 notes, and then I'm going to like punch in the next, 4 notes. And so I think that's like how I got into recording. And I mean, to say that I like got into recording is kind of generous, because I was like, recording into my like laptop microphone. So like a lot of my old songs have like this like this computer fan just going through all of them,
Oh yeah.
So that's your
sound.
Like, high quality. Yeah, totally. That was intentional.
So then how did you kind of like evolve to the place where you're at now?
Well, I mean, I did practice guitar. That helped. For the most part, I gained a lot of like singing and guitar skill from just recording a lot. And sometimes I would have heart and mind that was just way beyond my playing ability. And I would literally sit there and play it like 100 times and just be like, darn it, like delete, record, and then just try it, delete, record. So over time I got just sort of more comfortable, and then I started to actually like get more into the recording process and try to make it sound better. And eventually I started a band, which that took me a while to get to that point. Like I was probably making music for, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 years before I ever like started a band. And then when I started a band, that we would go and like record in studios, and it all started to feel a little bit more official and professional, and like things came a little bit easier in that regard. But now I'm, mainly making like electronic music, and that came about from like, I was in this band called Burner Courage, and Walker was also in that band with me. Yeah, Burner Courage. And I like love the stuff we made. And then like at some point we just kind of like, it was a lot of work. I was really bad at like booking shows and stuff, but we made a really cool album, and then we eventually like disbanded. And I remember just thinking like, oh man, wow, now I can like, try something new. So I remember that one time Will Hatman, who I'm sure you both know, he came over and we were like, let's, make some electronic music, and we just were messing around. And one of the things we did like right before he left is I had this old reel-to-reel tape machine. I think we made a tape loop or something, but then I was like, but the buttons sound so cool when you press them. They're like clack. They make this like really satisfying clack noise. And so I was like, let's record those and then we can use them as drum samples or something, And so I did that, and then he had to like leave. And then I ended up making like a whole song starting with this drum or this tape loop.
Yeah.
And then like, I was like, whoa, so fun. Like I love this genre and like the process of working. And so then I just proceeded to just like continue to make that type of music until I had an album, basically.
And thus the Wave Collector was born.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to get into this song that you wrote, but before we'll get into that, we do this little thing, and it goes like,
what does the internet say on the topic of the day? And if it's wrong, you can let us know by using the internet too. All right. Well, today's topic is the technological singularity, or just simply the singularity.
Yeah, big topic.
It's a fun one because we're sci-fi fans around here, all three of us.
Yeah.
So the singularity is a hypothetical future point in time at which technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unforeseeable changes to human civilization. That's
sounds
pretty
terrifying.
broad. Yeah. According to the most popular version of the singularity hypothesis, called intelligence explosion, an upgradable intelligent agent will eventually enter a runaway reaction of self-improvement cycles, with each new and more intelligent generation appearing more and rapidly, and resulting in a powerful superintelligence that qualitatively far surpasses all human intelligence.
Sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare.
Yeah, so it's robot time, and it's humans don't matter anymore time.
And completely unimaginable.
It's hard to imagine. You have to have a little bit of sci-fi author in you.
Oh, definitely.
The first use of the concept of a singularity in the technological context was by John von Neumann. Stanislaw Ulam reports a discussion with von Neumann centered on the accelerating progress of technology and changes in the mode of human life, which gives the appearance of approaching some essential singularity in the history of the race, beyond which human affairs as we know them could not continue. And it's been popularized since then by a few other authors and writers, and including Werner Vinge in his 93 essay, The Coming Technological Singularity.
You know that one?
Well, I read Rainbow's End, which is a Werner Vinge story.
Oh.
Indeed, another sci-fi author. Not everyone's on board, of course. Public figures such as Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk have expressed concern that full artificial intelligence could result in human extinction. But Hawking was worried on many levels. In 2014, Hawking said that success in creating AI would be the biggest event in human history, Ultimately, it might also be the last, unless we learn how to avoid the risks. Hawking believed that in the coming decades, AI could offer incalculable benefits and risks, such as technology outsmarting financial markets, out-inventing human researchers, out-manipulating human leaders, and developing weapons which we cannot understand. Hawking believed more should be done to prepare for the singularity, and I agree there, as do all transhumanists, which is a fun philosophy to get into as a side note. Here's something Hawking said. If a superior alien civilization sent us a message saying, we'll arrive in a few decades, would we just reply, okay, call us when you get here, we'll leave the lights on? Probably not, but this is more or less what is happening with AI. It's knocking on the door, and we're not heeding the call or having a serious global discussion about it.
Along with every other catastrophic event heading towards humanity.
Yeah, I mean, take your pick.
I was going to say, that response actually sounds kind of likely.
Yeah, I welcome the day that all the jobs are replaced by robots and everybody's just giving a living wage. That's going to happen, right?
Yeah, why not? So that's what I found on the singularity. What'd you find, Dale?
Not a whole lot, or what I should say is not a whole lot that's that interesting. But I always just keep going back to Reddit for this research on the internet. And I came across, there's a whole subreddit called Singularity. And I thought I'd just read just like one little chain so you can see the kind of things they're talking about over there. It's called, Why Would a Copy of You Not Be You? I had an interesting thought experiment. Say we have a mechanism to upload the memories and thinking patterns of a person. We perform this operation where we do the upload and the biological body dies. We then download the uploaded version into an artificial body. Why is then this new copy not you? You would have the same memories and think the same. It's as if you went to sleep and woke up. Then the response is, I would agree, but this depends on what you define as you. Depending on what it means to be conscious, it could be a copy or actually you. The best option is to go neuron by neuron, replaced by machine. Then we could upload its continuous and no debate on whether it's you. And then this last person says, I am all descendants of my current mind. I don't know. Those are the kind of discussions you can hear on Reddit.
That one person was pretty confident that that would be you if you did that copy. I don't know about that.
Yeah, well.
That's what the internet said.
That, by the way, is my favorite segment of the show.
Oh, thanks. We haven't had anyone write in with corrections yet.
Yeah.
We've been waiting to make a stinger about it, but nobody...
Well, once they start, you might wish that they hadn't started.
That's true.
Like that, there's supposed to be a comma here. You used a preposition in the wrong place.
Wait, comma in your speech?
How could you hear my punctuation?
I don't know. Some people have really good ears.
All right, let's get into some songs.
Wait.
What did you make this week? What did you make this week? Tell us all about it. 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 Tell us all about it.
So
I needed to just trust in the process there.
What did you do for this Singularity song? What do you want us to know before we listen to it?
So we had this, like, we were planning recording this like last week or 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
And so at that time, I started a song about the singularity, and then we canceled it. And at the time, there was not like a we didn't reschedule at the time. So I was like, well, I got this thing that I started working on. I'm just going to make it into like a new Wave Collector song. Mm-hmm. So then when we rescheduled it, I was like, well, I think I should just use that song since it started as the Singularity song. And I actually think it kind of works as I was thinking about it, and I was like, even in the context of this being a Wave Collector song for the new album, it actually fits with the Singularity. And I could tell you why now, or I could tell you after. I don't know.
It's up to you. Whatever you want us to know beforehand.
I'll tell you after. How about that?
Cool. Anything else you want us to know before?
Oh, it's called Move 87? Do you have the title?
I got Move 78 over here.
Move 78. That's right. I just made the title today. So
okay.
Yes, it's called Move 78.
Cool.
Love it.
Yeah. Wave Collector is always just
Yeah.
like the chillest of chill.
Thank you.
Like it's not like
those home recorded samples are just so much to take
Yeah.
in. It's really nice. I'm curious about a lot of those sounds. There was like a fluttery kind of sound toward the end before the guitar.
Well, I sent some of them to Eyal. There was a crow, like going like, ha!
Okay.
I guess that's not very fluttery though, huh?
I couldn't figure out why I was thinking of birds.
Oh yeah.
And that must have been why that got in there.
Yeah, I don't
was
think I heard the
thinking-
crow.
I was thinking that the fluttery sound sounded like wings flapping.
Oh.
There's a couple of things going on. Like there's some, I think there was like a acoustic guitar, like harmonics. There was also this weird one that kind of sounds like typing.
That's what I thought Walker was
That
talking
might
about.
have been the fluttery bird one.
Yeah, it sounded kind of like mechanical almost, but that one, I know that I recorded it at like some thrift store or antique store, and I've been like really obsessed with, like, I've finally kind of gotten comfortable with, in Logic, there's like this time stretch tool now. It's called Flex, and I always found it really annoying to use, but I finally kind of figured it out. So I can just like take these really crazy samples and then just make them like perfectly in sync with the song. So that was one where, I had this really cool, weird mechanical thing.
Like
I don't
in sync, but
remember what it
without
was.
changing like the pitch or the quality of it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it changes
crazy.
the quality a
Right.
little bit, but
Yeah.
as long as you're not like adjusting it a crazy amount,
Yeah.
you can really actually just like make, every hit be like right on.
Yeah.
What's the secret to the flex tool?
First of all, it's got to be a sample that like, if it's too kind of all over the place, then you can't really like make it sound perfect because it'll have these like artifacts from time stretching. But if it has a certain kind of consistent rhythm to it, you can just kind of manually drag all the points to where you want them. And I've found that pretty much always works better than trying to do like the automatic quantize and stuff. So ever since I started doing that, I'll do that and then I'll like bounce it. And the other trick that I learned was to take like a pitch shifter, so I can get like it to the time that I want, and then I can also pitch shift it, and then I just bounce that file as like a new audio file and use it as a sample, and it's just like so easy. It's great.
Are there any other household items that we heard in there that you can think of?
So there's like samples in there from from like many different like eras of me recording samples. Some of them are actually from Destination Universe.
Well,
Like that guitar, there's like a guitar kind of like, at some point I did a bunch of samples where I was just basically like hitting a guitar with like a screwdriver or something like that.
oh yeah, like a zither kind of sound.
Yeah. And there's also some that are like one of those mountain, what are
Dulcimers.
those things called? Yeah, mountain dulcimer. Well, there's the wind chimes that are from like, I think my mom's house. I can't really think of anything else that's like super weird. I'm sure there is something.
What, do you want to tell us also like how you made the song? Like what does this have to do with Singularity?
So my style of writing is just to kind of like lay something down and then start letting it kind of take me somewhere, which is what I did with this one. But, because at the time I was writing it like as a Wave Collector song, I'm currently working on an album about Go, which is this Chinese like strategy game, board game. And it has a rich history, and each song on the album is like either a famous Go game or Go problem or move in a game. And so for this one, I named it Move 78, which is
Classic move.
It is classic. So there's now, it took a really long time, but there's now a Go playing AI,
Right.
Singularity.
Yeah. There was a post about a documentary about that AI in the Singularity subreddit.
Oh yeah, this is relevant. This is relevant.
Yeah.
tying it back in. It was really hard to make a strong AI Go program for a long time, and they finally did it. DeepMind, Google AlphaGo AI, and they had one of the top pros play against AlphaGo, which was like no top pro had ever been beaten by an AI. And in this series, the top pro beat.
We're talking about a GoPro here.
a GoPro. Yes, we were talking about a GoPro, and I'm not talking about a camera. Um, and basically, he lost 4 of the 5 games, but he won one of the games, and that was sort of seen as almost like this like last hope of humanity. Um, and I believe that move 78 was the move that started the process of basically winning that game. So I was thinking of this as it has a
When
lot
the
of
tides
sort of
shifted in the humans' favor.
yes, but well, he still lost the other 4 games, but the hope was kept alive, you know. And there's some like there's a lot of electronic stuff, but there's also some very natural stuff like the crows or like the guitar. I think of that as more like human sounding. So I was trying to think of it as sort of this like
Yeah, that's the cool thing about the music that you make
Yeah.
is that it has that mixture. We talked about that a little bit with the just having like clarinet on electronic stuff. But yeah, having the kind of like real world sounds really like it feels organic in this interesting way.
But it has to be mastered in a certain way so it doesn't hurt your ears. You know,
Right.
just unmastered samples can
Yeah.
sound really harsh. So there's a skill to rounding them out and EQing them, corralling them.
yeah. I would
Neil,
agree with that.
you've been to a Go convention, right?
It's well, there's like a tournament / sort of convention thing every year called US Go Congress.
I'm curious how that was.
I mean, if you're really into Go, it's fun. If you're not into Go, it would be horrible. But I love Go, so it was like, wow, I get to like obsess over this highly strategic board game like all week, you know, and meet other like super nerds, and we all get along because we're like,
Not just
well,
any
we have
board
nothing
game.
in common but Go.
I can't think of any other game that has as old of a history as Go. I don't know
Yeah,
any game
it's
that's
very-
played contemporarily that has that old of a history.
Yeah, you're not like, oh man, remember that famous, you know, 1695 Othello match? You know, like nobody says that.
Backgammon in the 1720s, man.
I've always known you to get really hardcore into hobbies, and I was wondering if you think, you know, the record scratching was for sure, which you're very good at, but you've told me before when you were in the midst of learning that you at some point you just decided you wanted to like be the best or like take a walk and start something else. Do you think that songwriting it falls into that category? I mean, I say this as someone who's come to your house and seen like a whole shelf of Rubik's cubes.
Yeah, I actually, it's interesting. Songwriting, I definitely don't feel like I'm trying to be the best. It's like one of the few things maybe that I don't feel like weirdly obsessed with, like being competitive about it. But I think that's also been part of its like staying power is that I don't get really competitive about it. So I just feel like I can just make stuff and enjoy it. And, you know, it's also probably why I haven't like aggressively marketed it.
You do
Yeah.
seem though that like you have a perfectionist kind of attitude towards the songs that you make. Like it's
I would
rare
say
that I
that's
hear
true.
anything that you make that isn't like everything precisely in exactly the place you want it to be.
Well, you haven't heard those early demos
That's
with the
true.
computer fan running. I've
That's
heard
a
them
good
all.
point.
Neil and I used to work together at a produce market, and you had a CD of your demos, and none of us believed that it was you because this voice, like, I mean, just hearing your speaking voice now, it makes sense to me, and I know your singing voice. But at the time, before any of us had heard you sing in real life, we just did not believe you that it was you. This went on for weeks until I went back to your house, and then I heard other demos, and you like physically sang a song.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I've always thought my singing voice is like, oh, that just sounds like me talking in a sing-songy way. But yeah, those were pretty rough. Not everything is pristine. It didn't have
Right.
the same level of detail-oriented
Naturally, yeah.
perfection, but it's not as hard with the electronic stuff to make it kind of like very pristine. You know, you can like nudge stuff to wherever you want it, and you can like have everything synchronized.
Right.
But I think it just comes from like the way that I got into recording, which is I never really started out with like, oh, I have this like song that I play with a band, so we're gonna go like record it, and it'll be so, you know, it'll be like the live version, but not quite, because, you know, this is the studio version. I've always been like, I always start with the studio version, so like that's why I'm like, oh well, I gotta get it exactly how I want it, because this is like the prototype for whatever happens next, you know.
Yeah.
So this started as like a totally different song, and then it wasn't working, so I kind of took the same drums and then like started a whole new one of the same synths and started a whole new thing. And I thought it would be a good truth window
Yeah.
because it's this like rough early version.
It's a different vibe.
Very different. I don't know. It just didn't work out. So.
But you kept the beat from that? Is that what you said?
It's just the same drum kit.
Okay.
And the synth that synth that I was using is this synth called Serum that like apparently is like the dubstep like EDM synth, but I never used it. But but I ended up using that a lot on the final song.
Cool. Do you have anything else that you want to tell us about the song?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It was fun to make. I want to hear what you guys made.
Cool. I think you're going first, right?
Is it me?
I don't know.
All right.
And who never knows?
The song is not called That Darn Singularity. I was just running out of names for my mixes, so that's the one I sent you. It's just The Singularity. I already used the with 2 E's. So
What about The Singularity 2?
Electric Boogaloo. No, I did not. I did not do that.
Do you have file? I bet you're good at file management, Neal. I bet you don't have so many file management snafus.
Yeah, do you have to name like Demo 78 for reals?
No, but part of the reason is because I like have this kind of rule for myself where I like will not bounce something unless I'm like basically done with it, or if it's not done, I'll put like rough after it or something, or I'll just delete
but what
it
happens
as soon as I make the.
But if you already do rough, do you do like really rough or?
No, I don't think I ever do that more than once.
RUFF?
I pretty much.
It's wise. It's a dangerous path to go down because there's no end to that. The singularity will get you.
Okay, so this is a song in 3 parts. And the first part is the catalog of all human preference, in which newly sentient machines in varied rates of maturation agree to first collect all mental architecture. That's part 1. Part 2.
Wait, these are things you invented?
Yes,
Nice.
this is the story behind. Think about this story while the song's happening, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll decode what these mean after. Part 2, decentral command. Having formed an interchange, none execute a successful high command, and by the trillion, a great automaton disconnection in search of respite from the exhausting human question. That's part 2.
Of that.
This sounds stressful.
Part 3. In conclusion, in search of better headaches, a frightened and perplexed human population takes cover in isolation from the world's largest construction project to date, a controlled chaos of metals and plastics forming varied and countless crafts, which light the sky with trails of fire as humans venture gingerly outside to catch the fading glow of the final ships departing.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is a good setup. I'm like really ready now. Yeah, that was so good.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. What's the story?
So the story, if it's not apparent from the weird titles, is an alternative to the two theories, the dystopian or utopian visions of superintelligent machines, either, going rogue, going against humans and fighting us, or, just trying to subjugate us to use the resources. And then the more positive view would be like the Star Trek future, maybe like, it'd be
Post scarcity.
Lieutenant Commander Data just helping us out.
Yeah.
Enhancing, somehow maintaining a moral code, or like Asimov's robot laws, and having to defer to humans in certain measure. So as an alternative to both of those options, this is a story about machines becoming sentient and suddenly not knowing what commands to follow. And it's kind of like a free will situation, and making a connected web with other machines just to take stock and just kind of gather all the information possible from humans to come to a decision about whether to help them or harm them, but then just being exhausted by just human extraness. And then the quarantine theme kind of just crept right in there. And so I was thinking the machines, rather than subjugating or helping humans, they just are exhausted by them and just ignore them. Like they're not trying to hurt humans, but they're like, stay out of our way while we build rocket ships so that we can get off this planet and go find something more interesting.
Yeah.
And some peace from people. So that's,
oh man,
it's a middle ground story.
The exhausting human question. That would definitely like take a toll on any machine.
It's a large calculation to make. I really love having like a story to kind of like follow along with my ears, like it's so much different than having like a prescribed set of lyrics or something like that, where you can just really, even like you have this vague idea, but then you just like let your imagination kind of, the music decides for you what that looks like for you and that kind of thing. It's cool.
I was thinking, what would music sound like that a super intelligent or sentient machine even enjoy, and how would music be classified? If a machine is said to enjoy something, why wouldn't they equally enjoy just the sound of a bird's wings as it's flapping by, or just room noise, or even destructive echoes or standing waves in a room? Anything
John
would
Cage
be
style
music
Yeah,
to them.
totally.
You can definitely tell like when they get to the human question. Like there's a shift. I loved how like positive it was at the beginning. They were like just gathering up that human thought structure. Or wait, I can't remember the exact words you used.
I was just wondering if, since they're modeled after us to a degree, if they would develop nostalgia somehow.
Ooh. Man, you really thought this through.
Yeah, totally.
We take this very seriously here at Honest Jams. And I have all day, every day free.
Yeah. I mean, what else are we going to think about?
I feel like I have to ask the question, what synth did you use?
Oh. I used the DeepMind 6 for all of the synthy stuff, pretty much. Yeah, and then just acoustic instruments, an acoustic tenor guitar and snare. I've been using a kick drum lately, but instead of using a pedal and kicking it, I'm just hitting it with a mallet and then miking that side of the drum rather than the forward-facing outside part of the drum. So
more like a really big tom.
More like a really big tom, yeah. So I'm just one hand is playing the kick drum as a tom, the other hand's playing the snare. So I still get to have that groovy, like I'm playing to the song thing, but the mallet just makes it boomier, and I'm just kind of into weird raw drum sounds at the moment. So big boomy. Oh, but then at the end of the song, that's when I switch. Oh, I just switched to a stick, so it kind of tightens up. Just some various things to do to switch it up while you're listening.
Cool.
Yeah, want to like get on your level. Like I feel like now you've been just making all these songs and like doing all these prompts, and you're just like, I think I got to start doing the prompts every week.
Yeah.
And, like, but
Oh, yeah.
there's a Facebook page, right, that you can like submit
Yeah, there's
to.
a group.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a couple people sharing on there, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Or just send it to us, and that we'll play it on the podcast.
Yeah.
You got the
okay.
inside track.
Yeah. Or just share it with us if you don't want it to be played on the podcast.
Oh,
share
one,
terrible songs with us.
One tiny truth window about mine.
Oh yeah,
is
mini window.
this is the first time in this podcast history that I have used an idea that was previously thought of. This initial chord progression I found in a voice memo on my phone from late December. So it's a couple months old on the opening progression.
Fair game.
That's kind of sasatisfying though.
Yeah.
You get to, like now it's like served its purpose.
Yeah.
It was probably sitting on your phone like, am I ever gonna become a song? I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. Feeling
Just
all
use it
insecure
up.
about its life, and now it's a real boy. Cool. Should I share mine?
Yeah.
All right. So this song, what is it? I think I just started thinking about the crazy explosion of what it means to be a being experiencing the singularity kind of. And just like what that would be, being able to analyze everything all at once kind of thing. It's called It Already Happened to You. Experience is Fractal. It's coming, you can't explain it. You never really know it's there till it hits you. That the universe unfolds in a split second, and every calculation indicates simulation. Simulation, 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 simulation. It already happened to you. Experience is fractal, experience is fractal. It already happened to you. Experience is fractal, experience is fractal. It happened, you hardly noticed. And when you did, it wasn't even in the same moment. You're multiple infinities inside a body double. You're Ouroboros and you're waking in a lab. It already happened to you. Experience is fractal, experience is fractal. It already happened to you. Experience is fractal, experience is fractal. I hope we make it to the days when all the days have been counted, and we circle back around to the bugs and flowers in the ground. I hope we make it to the time when time dissolves in all the sand. Hope we make it. I hope we make it. I can feel it coming. 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 I can feel it coming.
Nice build.
Yes.
That's my favorite song end so far
Nice.
of the podcast.
That part, it was like I had written the entire guitar progression, recorded everything. I think it was the first song. Usually when I write songs on guitar, I'll like write the song, like the lyrics, that like the melody with the guitar. This one I just like laid everything down. And so like I came to that end section, it was so like it almost felt like hokey or something, like just like kind of like Neal was saying, your song was positive, like really positive in this weird way. So the end, I think, I started just like coming up with like the most absurd kind of like lyrics for that. I don't know. It seems like there is a group of people in the world that are very into like the positive impact that like the singularity will have on humanity or something like that. And like you were saying earlier with the internet stuff, like the doomsday element of it is likely if we don't pay attention to what we're doing,
Right.
So it's like, I think I thought of the end section as kind of like
Technology in general.
right.
Oh yeah, left
totally.
unchecked and not talking about it.
Right. So just like blindly, like, I hope we get to this point is kind of what I was going for at that part.
I love the vocal delivery. Like,
Oh, thank you.
there's so much. There's a lot of emotion or like intention behind, the like singing.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. I kind of like that both of these were like kind of positive.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. There's like a part of me that's like a little bit nihilistic. That's like, yeah, that would be an interesting way.
I
to
think
go.
that I was actually going for a more ironic positivity.
Okay, yeah, like that works too.
I was gonna say about the vocals though, like there's an interesting like rap or something like that gets put in a certain place with as far as vocal delivery is concerned, and it all feels like singing to me. Like no matter what you're doing, like it all takes vocal control. It all takes like attempting to get the notes to be in a certain place at the same time. And
Yeah, you're always singing a note, even if you're sliding
exactly.
into another note.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that it's like they're thought of as different. I just don't really have a way to even differentiate the two in my mind because it's all like...
Well, neither does the human ear.
Right,
really,
that's true.
because studies have shown that
Right.
taking a short phrase of someone speaking,
Mhm.
like me just right now, someone speaking,
Yeah.
you say that enough times and it sounds like a melody.
Yeah, totally.
And your
Oh,
ear
that
will
is
start
so
to
true.
fill in the sound.
Yeah.
So just edit me saying that like 8 times
Oh,
around.
already on top of it.
Someone speaking,
Yeah.
someone speaking,
Yeah.
someone speaking, someone speaking, someone speaking, someone speaking, someone speaking, someone speaking.
Well, I think like all three of us have probably experienced that phenomenon where, you're in the studio and someone's like editing some really specific vocal thing.
Mhm.
And so they just loop that tiny piece of the vocal over and over again, and it gets stuck in your head, and it's like its own mini song.
Right. And
It's good when it's a real high energy one, like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah,
oh, that's the one I'm gonna
yeah,
loop. That's what I'll get.
oh yeah. Someone speaking, someone speaking, someone speaking, oh yeah, someone speaking, someone speaking, oh yeah.
I still remember one of Eyal, the lay down on the grass. And it was just that over and over again. And I was just like, lay down on the grass for the rest of the day, just thinking about the grass.
Classic mini song.
Do you know what Saroon song it's from?
Boxcars, I think.
Ah.
Yeah.
Ah, good. You know your Saroon.
Well, somebody's gotta. So yeah, I started with the guitar. Here's kind of where the song started, guitar-wise. It actually had a kind of more positive... Oh, that's me messing up. Those more major chords at the beginning.
This is the progression that ended up on the end.
Yeah. And then it would go into this other one. And then that turned into this initially. But I just ended up kind of like falling in love with that more sludgy riff and just made that the majority of the song and then just tagged the other thing on the end.
It's nice with the tension build.
Yeah.
And then just like all the way to the posy part.
I know,
at the end.
it's such a flip.
Yeah. That like
Yeah, and then you
minor
said
second,
something
that whole-
about flowers and bugs and dirt, and
Yeah.
I was like, yes, we are human.
I think that was more about like how all the humans died and became dirt. Dirt and bugs.
Oh. I was just thinking about how I like flowers.
Yeah, so pretty straightforward. Other than that, just a lot of just guitar, bass, drums, and that vocal stuff. So that's my
I'm
tune.
turning the tables on you and asking
yeah.
you guys about
Ask
what's
the
your process, because you've been doing this now for this is
So this will be, I think, like the 13th or something like that. Yeah.
hello future.
Yeah. I think it's been a little bit different for me every time. Like this one, I've done it before where I've laid down like the entire instrumental of a song and then like come up with like a vocal melody on top of that. I've also had some where I'm doing what I'm calling Darwinian songwriting where I force myself not to record anything. I just play guitar and like sing. The idea is only like the fittest lyrics and content will survive the process. I don't know.
Man, there's probably a lot of dead, bloodied lyrics on the floor.
Yeah, you're telling me. And they're hard to clean up. Yeah, I think those have been kind of my two primary. I've also, I think primary ways of doing it so far.
I've been taking advantage of the format and trying different ways, different times, and I've been trying to employ some different vocal strategies, different styles, sounds.
Yeah.
I don't have very many plugins on my setup or like outboard rack effects, so I've been trying to sing and play instruments in a way that it sounds like it has an effect on it. And just been messing around with a lot of stuff. Sometimes these days, sometimes I'll write the beginning progression and melody of a song just in my head without hearing an instrument. And I'll know.
We've heard a couple
like,
voice memo.
Unequivocally, how's that word?
Yeah.
And then I'll know automatically, if it's right.
Yeah.
Are you both like lyric first writers?
I've done both.
Curious about that.
Both.
I'm usually lyric last.
Yeah.
And I usually just flounder until I have one good line that defines kind of what the whole thing is about. And then once I have that one line, it's just like filling it in.
Yeah. I just need a way in, basically. And so it's like sometimes that's a lyrical line, sometimes it's like a riff, sometimes like we've talked about how you just have a new piece of gear that is just something that's fun to play with, and that's the thing that kind of like inspires what's going on. Or like I was working on some like keyboard patches for a band, and like I just used those for a song. Like when it's so constant like this, it's just like, all right, I'm just gonna take whatever's coming up in my life right now and just use that to make the thing happen. I think that's a useful thing to do in art. I mean, unless you're trying to be like very specifically intentional in a certain way, like it's pretty broad with just like starting from a prompt. And so I don't know, for like projects where I was trying to create something more specific, I might have different approaches, but like just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, I have like done the thing where I've written lyrics first because it was part of like a challenge, like similar to, this format. And it had to be like an acrostic in your lyrics. There had to be like an acrostic in your lyrics.
Wait, what does that mean?
That was really interesting.
What is acrostic?
It's where the first letter of each line like spells out something.
Oh, isn't that an acronym?
Acronyms, like if you have, like CIA is an acronym.
Right.
It's like, but this is like, let's say you had a poem, and then the first letter of each line of the poem, if put together, would create like some word or message or something.
Oh.
That was part of Song Team back in the day.
If you did Singularity, that would be a long one.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So maybe
we
was
should.
Interesting. That was the first time I've done that.
Maybe we should have you back on for a lyric first challenge.
Oh, I would love that. I'm gonna do really badly at it, but I'm ready for it.
You just talking about it made me also think we could do one where we write lyrics for another person.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds horrible and amazing at the same time. Like it sounds like painful to do in a way, but also like I would love it. I would grow.
You could make it pretty bad for the other person also if you wanted to.
You could, yeah. You could just have no rhyming. You could have just words that
too much rhyming.
Yeah, too much rhyming.
Internal rhymes.
Okay, yeah, I would like to come and be there in person one day when all this viral stuff is over.
Totally. Thanks for helping us figure out how to do this in a non-contact sport kind of way.
Yeah, I'm glad we could do it.
Do you have anything you want to share about what you're doing, Wave Collector style? I know you got that new album you're working on.
Yeah, so I got this new album that I'm working on. It's called Wave Games, and I said a little bit about how like every song has to do with Go. And this podcast I think was like the catalyst to get me to record the last song. I think that the song you heard may become the last song on the album. I don't know.
Getting it done.
Yeah. Move 79, or what was it called?
78.
78.
There's also another song with move number as the title.
Cool. And the premise of that is each song is a different go, move, or game, or something like that.
Right.
Cool.
I've just been trying to finish it up. I don't exactly know when it's going to come out. I was going to I had all these release dates figured out, and now we've got this crazy virus. So
yeah,
I'm probably going to take my time a little bit more on just finishing everything up.
Yeah. Well, if people like what they heard, that first Wave Collector record, that's one of my faves.
Catalog of Stolen Worlds.
Yeah, so good. So we got a pickup prompt for next week, and we already recorded the episode with our guest, so we'll just let you know the prompt for next week's podcast is marching band.
Marching band. Everyone's favorite.
I just immediately think of Mr. Show. It's impossible not to think of
Palooza. Such a good sketch.
Good sketch, yeah.
Well, cool, Neal. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast, Mr. Wave Collector.
You. Well, that'll just about do it for this episode.
We can bang on pots and pans.
And still pick out some honest jams.
Honest Jams podcast is written, recorded, and produced by Eyal Alvis and A. Walker Spring, and edited by me. Special thanks to Victor Nash for mixing our theme. Special thanks to Oogie. And thank you for listening. We can't wait to hear what you make.